Hello, everybody. So, welcome to Distant Learning, Criminal Justice Style. So, throughout the rest of the semester, or for as long as we're doing this distant learning model, I'm going to be using these screencasts as well as other things, which we'll talk about later. But I wanted to start off with a relatively short one just to give you a sense of how it works. And so, let's briefly talk about this idea known as predictive policing. You will have posted on the Google Classroom a corresponding PowerPoint that you can follow along. Okay, so with that in mind, let's dive into this a little bit. Predictive policing. So, predictive policing, or sometimes referred to as proactive policing, involves, as the name implies, it involves trying to predict or uh, or determine where crime might happen before it happens. Now, if we were in class, I'd play these clips for you, but since we're not, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and click these links after this presentation is over and watch these two YouTube videos on predictive policing. But essentially, predictive policing is the idea of targeting what is referred to as hotspots. And there was this Kansas City study where they did exactly that. They targeted a hotspot where there was a lot of criminal activity. And over a course of 29 weeks, they saw a 50% decrease in gun related crime. I want to show you a little map overlay of what these hotspots look like. Now, you may have heard about a city that has a lot of crime or a neighborhood that has a lot of crime. And then maybe you know someone who lives there and the person might be a little defensive and say, what are you talking about? Inglewood doesn't have any crime. You're getting that from some rap song or something. So if we look at these hot spots in LA, and we should be focusing, if you guys can see my mouse, I think you should be able to. If we focus on Inglewood does not have much crime at all. But you go over just 2 or 3 blocks to Florence Graham, and you can see that Florence Graham is a real hotspot. There's a lot of criminal activity. And I always like to show my students, and let's see if I can do this via a screencast. It's a little easier in class, but I always like to show my students a city that's a little bit more local. So just about a half hour north of where we are is a city called Newburgh. And here is a Google satellite image of Newburgh. And if you look at Newburgh, there's this street. Here it is. It's called Lander Street. Lander Street has a nickname. It's called Blood Alley. And I don't know how much you know about Newburgh, but Newburgh has some of the highest crime rates, not just in the country, not just in the state, but in the entire country. And sometimes you might hear, oh, Newburgh's bad. So here we are. If you're following my cursor, I'm on Lander Street right now. Blood Alley. This street has a lot of crime. Oh, Newburgh is a place that has a lot of crime. So follow my cursor. I go down 1, 2, 3 blocks and, down the street here. And now I am at the marina. I am eating at this restaurant. This is beautiful. There's very little crime in this area. Not only is there very little crime, but we would describe this as an area of economic development where there's all these restaurants and shops and things like that. So it's a really good example of these hotspots. Now, with the hotspots, let's see if I can go back to our PowerPoint. Here we are. With the hotspots come some issues. So if I put a lot of police on Lander Street, for example, people who live on that street certainly might feel targeted. So we're going to talk about predictive policing and ways to try to use it in a way that benefits or stops criminality, but also protects people's individual liberties. All right. So moving ahead, what I would like you to do right on this Google slide presentation, and I've already created the slide for you, what I would like you to do is identify a crime, an area, or a behavior. So if we were in class right now, I'd say, is there any place in town? Is there any area? Sometimes kids talk about the rail trail, or is there any area in town that you have heard or know of where criminal behavior happens? What protocols would you follow to stop this behavior? Now, I always like to say you can do real crime, which is, actual criminal behavior, or, you probably haven't had much experience, let's hope, with real crime. You might want to use what I call school crime. So maybe it's skipping or fights or smoking or something like that, or vaping. How would you stop? Are there hot spots in school, in other words? And if there are, how would you address those hot spots? So, in short, I want you to stop the behavior. You can use a real crime example, or you can use what I call school crime example. Have a little fun with this. So, I'd like you to do this. I am going to check out your work, and hopefully, we will have a virtual conferencing session where we can talk about this a little bit. I hope everybody is doing well, and I'm really hoping to see you guys again, either virtually or ideally, we'll actually be able to meet up again. We'll talk to you soon.